Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, gaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. This is live show 1154. If you're not overly familiar with the dispatch, let me point out, super casual around here. We're just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then throughout the month of February, I am taking first looks at games, mostly role-playing game books. And tonight is no exception, because we're going to dive on in and take a first look at the recently released Castles and Crusades Castle Keeper's Guide Reforged from my friends over at Troll Lord Games. So stay tuned for that. If you are popping on in to see the first look and get into the running to win the trio of main Castles and Crusades books in PDF, we're going to start taking a peek at this in about 35 minutes is my estimation. So just kick back, relax. If you are tuning in after the fact, maybe even watching on Memorex, then of course there will be timestamps that you can utilize both in the timeline of the video and in the show notes. So you can always pop past the tabletop gaming news if you would like. All right. Should also mention, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. Now, it's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel and be so for at least 10 minutes before you can jump on into chat. Another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check both those boxes, you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. He is one of our chat moderators. Gleeman RX is also with us, as is Keithulu, Sean O'Donnell, Semper Buffo, Kevin R. Smith. Mike is with us. Bradley Thorpe is popped on in. W. Forge is in chat. Let's see who else. Dirty Dwarf, who I believe might be a first-time visitor here in chat with us. Welcome aboard. I think I have said hello to everyone. Hope you brought enough for everyone. I didn't know there'd be so many. Bradley says, hey, Jeff, I wanted to say I just bought the D&D 2024 Monster Manual. I have to say the artwork is awesome, but the stat blocks, not so much. Well, interestingly enough, I also bought the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual 2024. I get it tomorrow. Yes, I will be sharing a review of it. I am not going to share a first look video, though. So I don't want to cover, yeah, would it bring in, more views if I do two videos? Yeah. Do I really care about those views that much? No. So there is that. Dirty Dwarf says they mostly run old school essentials these days, but they would like to run Castles and Crusades eventually. Well, hang out. I am going to be giving away the trio of main books, because really there's 2 core books. But I have shown, well, this will be the 3rd first look video that we have popped on in to take a look at this Reforged Castles and Crusades. So I am giving away copies of all 3 of those books. You might get in the running to win it, because you got to be watching live tonight. I'm giving it away during the show. Matthew Palmer is also popping on in to chat. So I went and hung out at Polar Vortex this weekend, and after the news, I'll share some thoughts about it. In fact, got to play some games with someone who's in chat right now. We played one game, actually, and then went out to eat. But they got to see the infamous Elliot Miller and my brother Greg. So that was pretty funny. Pretty funny. All right, let's jump on into the news, because now landing in stores from Maestro Media is Donald Duck in Happy Camper. Here's what I know. The Ducks are setting out to camp. In Donald Duck in Happy Camper, players race to explore the wilderness, set up camp, take scenic photos, and earn badges. Starting with an empty board, players reveal tiles and gather resources on their turn. And the more you have in your bag, the slower you go. Will you race to the best photo spot or set up tents in different terrains? There are bigger bonuses for being the first to complete a task. So plan carefully as you race to become the best Happy Camper. The game is for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, plays in around 30 to 45 minutes. Does carry an MSRP of $39.99. And this is a celebration of the 90th anniversary of Donald Duck. And I've got a copy of the game. So I will actually be sharing a video about Donald Duck in Happy Camper. And I got to say, this actually has some heft to it. So that's kind of interesting. So I see Kevin R. Smith is asking if it's got Huey, Dewey, and Louie and Donald, or is it the 3 girl ducks whose names that Kevin can't remember? Well, I do see, taking a look on the back here, I see 2 of the male ducks, 1 of the girl ducks, and Donald. So those are probably the 4 standees that you get to choose from. There we go. Mark Hawkswell is popping on in. I believe this is a first-time visit for Mark. And Albert Stebbins is also with us, who I think this might be a first-time visit in chat as well. So welcome to you both. Should also say hello to the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, if she happens to be out there lurking in the shadows as another of our chat moderators. Shanbot B42 is also jumping on in. So Sarah D says, Donald is a glutton for punishment, taking 4 ducklings camping. Yikes. I think it's 3. No, it is 4. It is the 3 boys and the girl. So maybe we have 5 standees. Although I will say, I do know that the cover artwork is not something that was created specifically for this game. This artwork has existed prior to it being used as the cover of this game. So I don't know, but I am intrigued, and it's got tile laying, and I happen to be a tile laying game fan. Just got to say. Moving right along, let's talk about some role-playing game news, because there's an interesting looking zine for the first edition of Mothership. It is up on BackerKit for Hammer City Games. I've got the lowdown on starships and soldiers. Listen up, maggot. You wander into my system, into my planetary space. Try to get by saying you get lost or our jump drive failed. And the captain sacrificed himself so he didn't get eaten by a space jellyfish. Bullshit. Sounds like deserter talk to me. Get your rifle, sack up, and get ready to drop. You're in the army now. For systemically earned democracy. For Volantis. Welcome to Sector 86, the bloodiest in the midworlds. Your crew has wandered here after a jump gone wrong or by thinking you could finally get your asses out of the Outer Rim. Problem is, the only viable way back towards Earth, or Terra, if you're a Soltist, is Sector 86, a collection of systems under constant turmoil and war, both within and without. Meet some of the people you'll be killing or joining. Volantis, the most militarized planet rimward of Earth. Volantis has been under constant siege for decades. Despite its paradisiac appearance, its crust is brimming with barracks, bunkers, and bombardment apparatuses. There's Hog, a planet of former humans that have adapted to their new planet of choice, growing strong, squat, and authoritarian. That's nice. The Helgian gas despise Terra and Volantis and will fight tooth and nail to gain freedom or die trying. There's Tackholm, a rock of a world nestled far to the edge of Sector 86 and mostly forgotten. A lost mining fleet alerted Volantis, too late, to its subterranean dangers. Now the bugs are en route, looking to spread their interplanetary hive to the most fertile world around. And then there's also Rook, a fungal world of intertwined mycelium species. From this primordial jungle comes parasitic fungi that have enslaved the world's creatures as hosts for their future interstellar empire. They are the Ricoli, and they are coming. The only thing standing in their way, billions of human hosts for them's the claim. Starships and Soldiers is meant to be a toolkit for creating battlefields, either to observe or be thrown into. Without a linear narrative within, the zine serves as the ultimate toolkit for Wardens, filled with 3 new alien species to kill, 4 different units each, objectives to complete either in battlefield or around the universe, air support and obtainable asset rules, a full planetary/stellar system generator for randomly rolling your way through the universe, as well as rules for player characters to retire from the Outer Rim and have a, hopefully, happy ending. The project is completely funded. You can reserve a copy of the physical zine with PDF for a pledge of approximately $19.24, or score just the PDF for a pledge of approximately $13.40 through February 28th. Reason why I say approximately is because this is out of Canada, our soon-to-be enemies. Not even going to go there. Expected fulfillment is the 4th quarter of 2025. So there you go. This looks kind of cool. This looks kind of cool. A few more folks popping on into chat. Let's take a peek here. So I see Death Angel Shadow is with us once again, as is Age of Adventure. Said they haven't rewatched Starship Troopers for a long time. Wonder if it still holds up. I will say that the movie probably holds up better than the book. I don't think Robert Heinlein, some of his stuff is probably still fine. Probably a lot of his earlier stuff. But he has not aged well. His science fiction has not aged well at all. But yeah, I would think probably at least the first Starship Troopers movie probably still stands up. Just a guess. W4 says, no, Canada will be our 51st state. Just kidding. Death Angel Shadow says, I think your weather got lost. They're talking snow again in Tennessee. Yeah, we've been chilly. We have been chilly. I'm actually surprised it's not colder down here in the Duct Tape Studios, seeing that I think we hit a high of about 14 degrees without wind chill here in Yorkville. It's supposed to be more of the same tomorrow. Akishi says his books hold up fine, to be honest. I've read some of them. No, I have not read tons of Robert Heinlein. And I'll be very honest, it was years back. I would disagree. At least some of the stuff that I've read, I don't think probably holds up all that well. Not as well as, say, like Harry Harrison. I think Harry Harrison stuff probably holds up better than Heinlein. Anyway, just my opinion. All right, moving right along. Currently in a humble bundle is the More Tabletop and RPG Resources bundle from DiceGeeks. Here's the deets on the deal. D&D resources suited for any style. Gather up your party for endless adventure with this bundle of tabletop role-playing game books from DiceGeeks. This tabletop role-playing game explorer's kit contains an amazing variety of rule books, source books, and campaign resources that enhance your favorite Dungeons & Dragons games. Included are standouts like the Book of Random Tables, Festivals and Fairs, and the Book of Random Tables, Superheroes. Get everything you need to embark on an epic journey together and help support Children's Miracle Network with your purchase. You can jump aboard for as little as $1 or go all in to score all 46 items on offer for a donation of $18 or more. These savings do run through February 27th. And I went and checked to see if this publisher was using AI artwork, because there were a couple of pieces, well, more than a couple, in the images that Humble Bundle was sharing that looked like they could be AI. But according to the websites for DiceGeeks, they do not use AI. It is stock artwork that has been purchased. So there's that. There is that. Kathy Evans is popping on into chat. Very nice. Very nice. Moving right along. The Vagabond Pulp Fantasy role-playing game seems to have landed in PDF over at DriveThruRPG. And here's the latest from Land of the Blind. Drawing inspiration from medieval romance stories, dungeon synth, and all dungeon crawlers that came before it, Vagabond is a tabletop role-playing game that blends old-school practicality and modern tabletop role-playing game character expression. It also takes inspiration from modern pulp fantasy influence with the potential for a goblin gunslinger to be delving a mummy's tomb alongside a dwarf witch in search of Excalibur. Things will get weird. It is a D20-based system. It includes solo, co-op, and guided play. Deep, light load character creation. It is basic expert compatible. So it's the easiest system to game master. Don't know if that's necessarily true. There's light math, high action. Core rulebook features 18 classes, 7 ancestries: human, dwarf, elf, halfling, draken, orc, goblin. Over 100 perks, over 60 spells, over 200 stat blocks, with 100% human-made artwork, design, and writing. Just talking about AI art. And a procedurally generated solo dungeon, Ruinous League. The 204-page PDF can be had over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. I seem to recall when this was crowdfunding, and I think it's taken a while for it to come out. honestly, I think there's been various versions of this that has been shared with backers, but this is the first time that at least the PDF is being made available to those who didn't back the crowd. I think it was a Kickstarter, to be honest. Maybe it was backer kit, but I thought it was Kickstarter. Gotta say, this looks kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Is a bit of a retro clone with trying to go a modern direction. We'll find out. Christian Ule is with us, and I know I just butchered that last name. Yes, welcome back, Christian. Good to see you. Christian actually purchased some items in our holiday 50-50 game sale that arrived in good shape, it sounds. Up to our hated enemy to the north, we already mentioned. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. W4 says they think they've reached a level of oversaturation when it comes to tabletop gaming material. Yeah, I could understand that. I certainly could see that. Let's move on to our final. Oh, actually, Warren Rawlings says Vagabond beat MCDM and Daggerheart to press. I think, if I remember correctly, I think we've got a May 25 release date for Daggerheart. MCDM, which, what do they call? I forget what they're calling it now. That's not it anymore. They changed the name of it. That I've not heard anything. I have heard nothing about. W Forge asks, isn't there a new version of Victoriana coming out? It is, but if I remember correctly, I think it's coming out for 5e. It's going to be designed for 5e because I think it was put together by the same folks who did A Life Well Lived. I think they're called Vault 5e, I think is the group that works with Cubicle 7 Games. So, a few more people who've popped on in. Nero's Fiddle is with us again, as is Daryl Arrett. Good to see you. Chuck Terrell is popping on in. We got a lot of folks hanging out in chat tonight. Very nice. Let's talk about our final news piece, because now available in PDF from my friends over at Chaosium Inc. is Quest World, or I should say Quest Worlds, plural. Here's the skinny. Quest Worlds is a rules engine designed for play in cinematic, larger-than-life settings, inspired by classic pulps, comic books, and weird fiction. Inside, you'll find a rules-light system focused on resolving in-play conflicts quickly and easily. A simple core mechanic and optional rules allowing you to customize your game to suit any setting. Fast character creation rules enabling you to start playing straight away, ranging from an everyday accountant to an enigmatic superhuman mastermind. The possibilities are limitless. Rules for designing your own Quest World settings, bringing the epic adventures of your dreams to the tabletop. Now, keep in mind, Quest Worlds is a self-contained role-playing system. No other books are required to play. The 340-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Few people had pointed out that Matthew, what is it? What the hell's his last name? Caulfield? Am I just pulling that out of a hat? Well, MCDM is now called Draw Steel. That's right. Thank you kindly for pointing that out. Yes, it is Draw Steel. So it is my understanding that Quest Worlds used to be Hero Quest. Colville, that's it. Thank you, Kevin. Coalfield, that's where the James brothers ended up getting all shot up. That was their last robbery. Oh, no, or was it Coffeeville? Maybe it was called Coffeeville. So, yes, Kevin R. Smith says it was Hero Quest and Hero Wars before that. And it was my understanding, I thought this was open source. So I thought it was kind of unusual to see that this is now being offered as a PDF for $19.99. So I guess it's not open source anymore. W. Ford says they were interested in Nimble 2, but after waiting so long, they're not going to get it. Yeah, I can see that. I can see when you sit around waiting around for things. It's kind of like, all righty. It's like, okay, this is supposed to be out in 2022, huh? Yeah, okay. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is also affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of those One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Of course, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource. Hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Yum, 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 yum. Nom, 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 nom. Yes, yes. So, do you also want to mention this month we've had some folks pop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make not small donations, including Joshua Edwards, Lisa Watkins, the Madman, Envision Internet Services, who I actually forget who that is because it's someone who hangs out in chat. I'm like, wait a second. I do want to point out, if you are going to make a donation over at paypal.me/thegaminggang, please put a comment who you are. If you want to just use your chat nickname, that's fine. That's great. I will refer to you as that. But sometimes I'll get stuff and it's like, who is that? I have no idea who that is. And they're like, oh, really like the channel. Thanks. I always watch. And it's like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Overkill Joe 1 is popping on in, saying, got to keep the duct tape studio in duct tape. Matthew Constantine's also joining us tonight. Very nice, very nice. All right, so we rocked on through that news pretty quickly. In case you're wondering what's cooking this week, of course, tonight's taking a peek at the Castle Keeper's Guide. And then tomorrow, we're diving on into Dark Tower for Dungeon Crawl Classics. This is Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 7. Thanks to a very generous viewer, they made a donation. I think they said, yeah, they kind of want to stay under the radar. I mentioned their name already last week. So big thank you to them, because otherwise we would not be taking a look at this. So that's going to be on tomorrow's show. Thursday, we're going to dive on in to take a look at the Warhammer 40K Imperium Maledictum starter set from my pals over at Cubicle 7 Games. Got a nice package with Cubicle 7 Games releases. Couple for Wrath and Glory and one for Soulbound. Yes, sorry to say we did not get an opportunity to see anything new for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which you already know. I really like that roleplay game system. So W Forge says, wow, it's still in a shrink wrap. I don't know if I'd have the willpower to wait. As Keith Hulu mentions, the legacy of Janelle Jacquez lives on. Jack Hanks is with us. Welcome aboard. So we went to Polar Vortex number 9. So I went there on Friday, hung out, didn't really play anything. And this was held in Lisle, Illinois at the Sheridan Lisle Naperville. So it was, fairly nice hotel. And it wasn't an arm and a leg or anything like that to stay there. So Elliot showed up on Saturday morning, like early Saturday afternoon. My brother showed up and I had played some Pathfinder. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. I had played some Starfinder, one of the playtest adventures, which I had shared a first look at, but hadn't read. I didn't do the reviews on those. Sammy did those reviews. So did that. And then my brother Greg and Elliot got there and we went and grabbed some lunch. And then we just came back and we did some open gaming. And Sean O'Donnell in chat popped up. We were talking with Sean for a while, and then he sat down and he played a game of Role Player with us. Role Player from Thunderworks Games. And then we went and grabbed, my brother left, but Elliot and Sean and I went out and grabbed something to eat. So it was kind of cool. So I'm also supposed to welcome Sean if he ever wants to game with us to just shoot me an email if you're interested in playing some game. Well, probably role-playing, actually, with the gang. But yeah, Sean was really nice. And I'm sure Sean would attest. This is who I am. Probably a bit more of a wise ass in person, but I'm not doing any shtick or anything like that. This is me. So anyway, so we had a good time. I enjoyed myself. There's only one thing that I would probably recommend to the folks over at Polar Vortex for their next year. And I would say that they had a charity auction where they had some cool stuff. And originally it was supposed to be over at 2:00 on Sunday. That's what we had been told. I don't know if that's what it was supposed to be or if we were misinformed. So Elliot and I were like, yeah, we're going to hang out until 2:00 on Sunday. So we put in bids on, because it was just, you wrote down your badge number and your bid. And then on Sunday, we were told it would be 4:00, and neither of us were planning on staying that late. So we went and scratched out our bids. And the reality is, on Sunday, there were probably maybe half as many people who were there on Saturday. So to the powers that be at Polar Vortex, I would probably recommend do your silent auction Saturday night. End it Saturday night or Saturday, like 5, 6 o'clock. Because I would think that, and the charity was for the American Cancer Society. I would think that there would have been more bids on items if it had been Saturday night as opposed to Sunday, because I think people left early on Sunday. So anyway. So Sean O'Dell says it was a great time, and that's pretty much Jeff. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Madman says, yeah, I'll second that sentiment, because, yeah, the Madman has met Elliot and I, had a bite to eat at Gen Con. What you see is what you get. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much how it operates here. Speaking of Gen Con, we've put in for our press passes. And then, I don't know, I thought it was kind of strange. I got an email today because I just put in for the press passes today. And I think I could have done it as soon as they went on sale. But I was like, I gotta hurry, just jump on that. Be like one of the first people going, okay, we'll take our press passes. But I got an email saying that I think it's this Saturday, the housing portal's going to open. I thought that was kind of quick. I mean, it's only February. So Elliot and I were kind of peeking at what are we going to do? Because the way it's actually lining up is Gen Con's going to take place, and it unfortunately usually does do this during the busiest time of the month for Elliot's job. So Elliot probably won't be able to get down there until like Thursday night. Whereas I always go down on Wednesday. I get down there Wednesday, usually late morning, early afternoon, just kind of settle in. Keith Lewis says they've already got their hotel arranged. Yeah, I was taking a look at some places, but the housing portal gets you a pretty decent discount, about 20% at most of the hotels. So we've already decided what we're probably going to do is we are not going to try to stay downtown. Because if we don't get like a housing portal time 2 p.m. or earlier, all that stuff's gone. So, and normally my time that I get is like 6 p.m. And by then, like almost everything is gone. But some hotels are blocked off, so you can't even book unless you go through the housing portal and stuff like that. So what we figure we're probably going to do is probably look to stay up by the airport and then just Uber or Lyft in, because what we'll try to do is we'll try to save on the room, where the money that would have gone towards the room if we were closer in, we'll just spend on Lyft, there and back. Even if we go, there and back twice in a day. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Agile Monk is with us, as is JD Sewell 3002. Chuck Terrell is popping on in. Says West Side isn't so sketchy. It's funny. I've stayed south, and there's like a point where it's like there's like a little cluster of hotels. And then if you go east of that, some people would probably be kind of afraid. Me, I'm like, but yeah, I think I stayed out by the airport 1 year, once or twice. Chuck Terrell says east is bad. Yeah, I understand that. Chuck says they used to live on the west side of Indy. They always just took Uber. Nice, very nice. Keith Lulu says they're staying out near the airport. Nice. Very cool. All righty. So tonight we are going to dive on in and take a first look at the reforged edition of the Castles Castles and Crusades, Castle Keeper's Guide. Kind of paper locked on that. The Castle Keeper's Guide. So we're going to be taking a look at that in just a few moments. But first, I got to say, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
If going to a movie show is right for you, if candy eating and popcorn chewing's right for you, if what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's not too heavy, not too sweet, it's right for you. RC Cola. RC's just an easy going, right for you. RC Cola. If what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's right for you. It's right for you.
What's the best chocolate candy under the sun? In your wildest dreams, not this one. What a chocolate mess. But with M&M's chocolate candies, there's no chocolate mess. Here. There. Anywhere under the sun. Because with M&M's chocolate candies, the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Here's why.
I'm the M&M's plain chocolate center. He's a peanut.
A roasted southern peanut.
He's drenched.
In pure milk chocolate.
Then we're covered with thin candy shells.
So there's no chocolate mess.
Really?
Know what I mean?
That's why with M&M's chocolate candies, the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Get M&M's plain and peanut chocolate candies. Best chocolate candies under the sun.
Wilkins Instant Coffee soothes the headaches of life. I don't have any headaches. Care for cream and sugar?
An unknown species of horror is born as science fiction becomes science fact.
If you find any problems out there at the Colby place,
Just keep it to yourself.
he's over at Colby's. He's found another 20 or 30 hills just like the one we burned.
I mean, this right here is scientific phenomenon. As you know, all species of megalomorphs are cannibalistic. If you put them together, they'll kill each other off. They just don't colonize like ants or bees do.
An army of deadly predators, searching, destroying anything in their path. Why did they come? What do they want? In the tradition of the great science fiction thrillers, Dimension Pictures presents Kingdom of the Spiders, starring William Shatner, Tiffany Poling, Woody Strode, and introducing Alta Reese Davis.
Spiders in this area have organized themselves into an aggressive army.
I've never seen anything like it.
One minute they weren't there, and the next minute they were everywhere.
Jump at a girl.
Listen, there's thousands of them out there. We'll never make it. Why haven't we heard from the sheriff? He must know we're trapped in here. I'm telling you, I don't think we should chance it.
Your nightmares will never be the same. Kingdom of the Spiders. The next victim could be you.
I think nowadays a lot of people would lose their minds over the number of spiders which were obviously killed making that movie. My goodness. You know, it's been a really long time since I saw that movie. Do they all die? Do they all die at the end? Or is it almost like The Birds, where it's like Shatner and the blonde woman and maybe the kid are able to, you know, kind of sneak on out of town? I don't remember. Coco B is with us, says that movie bugged me as a kid. But dun. To be fortunate, did that spider break that glass window? He had that little hammer in his hand. Didn't you see it? Oh, his hand. I don't think he had a hand. Yeah, like I said, I don't recall how it ended. W Ford says, no, I don't want to spoil it, but no one sneaks out of town. I thought that's how it did end because that was kind of a 70s thing. 70s movies did not worry about ending on a downer. And some ended on like super big downers. Nowadays, your movie ends on a downer, you're going to piss off a lot of people. Everybody wants a happy ending. I don't know what to tell you. I was going to say something else as far as happy ending, but I don't think I will. All right. So tonight, we are going to dive on in and take a first look at the Reforged edition. Well, I guess it is the Reforged edition of the Keeper's Guide for Castles and Crusades from my friends over at Troll Lord Games. This is written by David Chenault and Stephen Chenault and friends. Plenty of artists also. This 368-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the Castle Keeper's Guide. Yes, sitting there crooked. Sweet. All right, before we jump on in, do want to mention my friends over at Troll Lord Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's important. You know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. And then, of course, I am going to be giving away a copy of the 3 main Castles and Crusades books, the Reforged books, in PDF to a lucky viewer. I am going to ask you a question. First viewer to get the correct answer is going to score those 3 PDFs. So you're going to want to pay attention because it's actually going to have something to do with this book. So I'm going to ask you. Chuck Trell says, I dig the artwork. I believe there's also a bit of new color line art in this. So I have not had a chance to actually dive on in to take a peek at the Reforged player. Well, I shouldn't say peek because we did the first looks at them. I haven't had an opportunity to start reading the Player's Handbook or the Monsters and Treasure book for the reviews of these Reforged books. But I know I've seen some artwork there. We do have some new artwork in these books. So that's important to keep in mind. So let's take a peek at the credits page here because there are quite a few people who worked very hard to bring this to life. So we want to make sure that we give credit where credit is due. Pete Strakulich is popping on in. Good to see you, Pete. Or I guess maybe I should say good to see you, Drakulich, because it's Pete Strakulich. All right, so we've got a bunch of chapters to this book. In fact, we've got 19 chapters, and they are expanding characters, magic, expanding equipment, non-player characters. So those are all part of part 1, the character. We got part 2, Worlds of Adventure, which includes world building, the city, dungeons, air and water adventure, equipment wastage, land as treasure, going to war, monsters, the future, and advancing the game. And then we have expanded play, the siege engine, treasure, combat, skill packages, and character death. So it's important for you to note this is not a required book in order to play or run Castles and Crusades. This is all optional content. So the book is essentially additional options for gameplay and tips for running the game for castle keepers. So you do not need to have this book. And I like the fact that we really essentially need a couple of books in order to run Castles and Crusades. You just need the player's handbook, and then you need monsters and treasure. That's all. You don't need any of this. So as an example here, we're taking a peek, and there is the option of having beauty as an attribute if you want for your characters. Do you have to? No, of course not. A lot of people avoid that. So just kind of taking a peek through here. It looks like this is a discussion of creating new races. Got magic. Casting spells from a book. Creating new holy symbols. Interpreting magic in Castles and Crusades. The rules as established in a player's handbook supply the basics for all spells, but certain spells and types of magic are open to interpretation or may require more explanation and clarification. The following section provides further explanation about divine magic, the illusionist's magic. Yeah, because illusionist magic is really quite different in Castles and Crusades than in just about any other fantasy role-playing game that I've run across. And the behavior of certain spells. It also presents optional magic systems for the castle keeper to consider implementing into the Castles and Crusades game. Clerics as medics, spell behavior. And this is giving us some information about some specific spells, faith or skill-based casting, expanding equipment. This is chapter 3. We'll get some artwork here. This is not new, so this was in previous editions. Excellent artwork, though. I really like that. So it's showing us a variety of different vehicles all the way into the Steam Age, because we've got the blockade runner there. Chapter 4, non-player characters. The tyranny of rules. As has been mentioned innumerable times before, the pace and mood of a game can be shattered by the strict adherence to rules, tables, charts, and the like. Not at my game table. Often, it is far more important to ignore complex rules in favor of propelling the story and adventure forward. Running NPCs is no exception to this. The castle keeper often finds himself wanting to move quickly through encounters that might not be germane to the game, or ones that might be boring, misleading, or distracting. It certainly isn't necessary the castle keeper understand the difference between an adherent and hireling. What is important for the game's pace and mood is that the castle keeper knows what each individual's NPC is doing, the extent of their role, and how to react to certain situations. With the exception of henchmen, The Castle Keeper can accomplish this from behind the screen with little recourse to rules. Running NPCs on the fly isn't as easy as winging combat, but can be done by keeping a few simple guidelines in mind. Notes, personalize, names, give them life, make them different. And then we've got various different NPCs, artist, artisan, Fletcher, cleric, cobbler. And looks like the cost of hiring them for the day. And it's going to get into a breakdown of what those people do. So here we go, hiring temporary work. And we got henchmen. And you'll also notice that each of the chapters has a little tab here. They're different colors. Now it looks like we're getting into more important NPCs there. Now we got world building. You know, over the years, I have found that a lot of people who look to kind of build their own setting end up just kind of running out of steam with it. So, because sometimes if you approach world building that you want all, every detail about your game world, you kind of run out of steam with that. Because the reality is your players are never going to experience everything that you've created. So my opinion and my advice has always been start small, build the world around your player characters, and then expand out from there. It's not as if, they're going to go visit the king right off the bat if the adventure is not starting off in the city. So, Jack Hanks is asking, how much difference from the last printing? So, to my knowledge, and once again, as I mentioned, I haven't really started reading the books yet. My understanding is, as Gleam1 RX is pointing out, that it's scrubbed of the open game license content, and they supposedly have finally fixed all those little typos and grammatical errors that have been popping up print run after print run after print run. So there is that. Got some maps here. At the top of my head, I don't necessarily remember these maps. They're kind of giving you an idea of like the size, right? So that's a hamlet. This is a village. That is a city. And I would say this is probably like capital cities, maybe. Those are pretty big cities there. Oh, a hill fort. Now we'll get into some fortifications. Yeah, you know what? I think this artwork was in it before. Agile Monk says, highly recommend the Castles and Crusades Reforged books. No open game license, and it's a truly new version. It's the best yet. Don't let Trollord Games hear you say that. It's not a new version. It's not a new edition, according to them. And I understand where they're coming from. Because as far as the Siege engine, which is the mechanics that drive Castles and Crusades, as far as the Siege engine goes, it really hasn't changed. This is still the same game mechanically as that little box set they released 20 years ago. So that has not changed. And when they release new books, they always want to refer to them as new print runs. So, like, I think this is the 5th print run of the Castle Keeper's Guide, but this is the first that has the Reforged stamp on it. So, like I said, in reality, in my opinion, when you're stripping all the open game license stuff out, to me, that would make this a new edition of the game, but that's not how Trollord Games wants this referred to as. So, yes, I know. Just like Amazing Adventures. Did my Amazing Adventures review, and I called it the second edition of Amazing Adventures. And I was told, well, it's not really a new edition. I was like, okay. And they asked me to change some of the information I had in the show notes, as well as on the website, to reflect that it was a new print run. It was not a new edition. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I had no problem with that. That's okay. So I'm like, no big deal. So, yes. So Agile Monk points out they're about to release an actual starter set for this print run. So something else that was changed is that in the player's handbook, Stephen Chenault went in and changed the write-ups for every spell. Some got new names, not all of them, but some got new names, and they all got new descriptions. So that is different. See, once again, to me, that would be like, okay, well, that makes it a new edition, but not according to the Troll Lord. So I don't want to get in trouble. Chapter 9, equipment wastage. So if you're running a game that's got an old school vibe to it, something that has to come into play is resource management. You don't see it so much in like Dungeons and Dragons. You see it a little bit more in Pathfinder, honestly. Not as much in Dungeons and Dragons outside of spells and potions. But there's actually more to that in an old school sort of game. If you're not real familiar with Castles and Crusades, it has an old school mindset, but it utilizes more modern mechanics. I pointed that at... How about English, Jeff? Agile Monk says, Stephen Chenault is trying to hold on to the statement that they would never have a new version. Yes, I get it. I get that. He said a little hard with this one. Pete Stracklich jumped on the starter set pre-order. It was announced only in email. It's about 2 months out as well. So there was a collector's edition and there was the standard edition. And funny enough, I am not getting any of the newsletter stuff from the Troll Lords. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So when somebody in chat had mentioned the starter set, that was the first time I had heard about it. So we are trying to work that out with Troll Lord Games because I am not getting any. That's why you rarely ever hear me talk about Troll Lord Games during the news, because I haven't gotten their newsletter. So we're working on that. Right. So next we've got Land as Treasure in chapter 10. Talking about guilds, creating guilds. Chapter 11, Going to War. So these are going to be some optional rules as far as mass battles. Hero units. Standard human units. Human rabble. Movement and scale. It's kind of cool. Broken morale. Combat actions. Melee. Charge. Ranged attacks. mounted archers, magical attack, combat sequence in action. Now we've got our siege equipment, different kinds of walls, aerial combat. So it looks like we've got a good amount of page space devoted to that. Next, we're getting into monsters. Understanding the monster concept. Too often, castle keepers or game masters in general use the monster as a weapon, a sledgehammer, to pound the party of characters mercilessly. Though the monster certainly has this use, and some occasions call for the monster's weight to come crashing down on the players, it really is ancillary to the role of the monster. On the other end of the coin, the monster is not a simple obstacle for the player to maneuver around or play as if it lived in a vacuum. In Castles and Crusades, the monster is a living element of the story, one that can change and alter to the situation, even as the characters can. Castle Keeper must treat it as a central tool of the storyboard to ratchet up the excitement and danger. As any student of the horror genre understands, direct bludgeon attacks where the monster thrashes about in a seasonal display of gore does little to heighten the fear factor, though it may heighten the "I just vomited in my mouth" factor. It does not drive people into the wild corners of their minds, seeking for answers about which they do not understand. Talking about monsters and their attributes. Monsters with a twist. Monster ecology. That's something I always find important to keep in mind if, you're doing a dungeon delve, or, and a dungeon delve doesn't necessarily have to be a dungeon. I mean, it can be, a jungle or a temple or what have you. But there should be some sort of ecology to it. And it looks like we're getting some information about various different monsters and their habitats. So that is chapter 12, monsters. Then we've got chapter 13, the future. Of course, we already know that Amazing Adventures is the kind of genreless role-playing game built on the Siege engine from Trollord Games. Myself, personally, I think it still focuses pretty heavily into pulp action. It's not truly a generic system, but it's more of a generic or genreless system than Castles and Crusades is. But the reality is it's the core mechanic that you're looking at here. So chapter 14, advancing the game. So beginning the game, plotting the adventure, talking about different level adventures here. The road goes on. The hook. Adventure types. So overland adventures, city adventures, dungeon adventures. Balancing challenges. Once the adventure is designed and the characters are made, there remains only the actual play of the game. Embarking upon the adventure brings the characters face to face with innumerable challenges. They must overcome these challenges themselves using their character abilities, spells, skills, and their imagination. It's up to the castle keeper to make certain that the challenges are interesting, but there is a proper balance with the size and makeup of the party, as well as the rewards offered. Many games offer challenge ratings for monsters, and the goal is set in stone what level a party should be before it tackles this monster or that. This approach does not fit the mold established in all the Castles and Crusades literature. In fact, this restricts the freedom of movement that the castle keeper must at all times command to run fun and fluid games. There are several simple concept rules to follow in order to lay out a good, well-balanced, and fun encounter/challenge. Know the party, know the monsters and traps, flexibility. Then we get a sample adventure talking about the various different levels of gameplay again. Then chapter 15, we get into the siege engine itself. Discussing the challenge base, the challenge level, primary and secondary attributes, attribute checks in the metagame, variant check methods, an 18+6 rule. This is the one I've talked about before, where you don't have to worry about, well, what one is a 12, what one is an 18. Everything's an 18. If it's a primary attribute, you add 6. And then, of course, you've got other modifiers, too. It's not just the +6. So you also add your level to the vast majority, if not all, of your challenge tests. So this is going through a bit more detail about utilizing the siege engine, which at its heart really isn't difficult to wrap your head around. It's still roll a 20-sided die, and your players are looking to roll high. So there's that. So, chapter 16, treasure, too much or too little. My experience I have had is that most game masters, when they're starting out, they tend to give out too much treasure. And then they learn, well, gosh, there's all of a sudden you're second level and you're walking around with a Vorpal blade and a magic carpet. Hey, I'm taking this from my own personal experience of playing Dungeons and Dragons as a kid when I was in grade school. And I think I was a third level character, and I had a magic carpet and a Vorpal blade. I was like, okay, all righty then. And then what happens is those game masters then go to the other extreme where you hardly get any at all, any treasure or, like magic items, stuff like that. You might get the gold and the silver and stuff. But so this is going to be discussing that as well as creating items. Then we get into chapter 17 is combat. So going into a little more detail about combat, and then we're going to get some various different options. So options for the critical hit. Talking about role-playing combat. You already know if you follow the Gaming Gang. I talked about this previously many times. I am a theater of the mind game master. So I don't use miniatures. I don't use standees or anything like that. Relighter Gamer is with us. Good to see you. Says this art is definitely their style. And Blue and RX said they just got this email from Trollords. The Castles and Crusades Player's Handbook for Foundry, going through some final adjustments, should be in hands of the folks who backed it this week. Very nice. I know the game plan had been to try and get it out before the holidays, but unfortunately that did not happen. Agile Monk says, by the way, of all the tabletop role-playing games they have, and they have far too many. Yeah. I had far too many before I even started doing this stuff. So yeah, I know where you're coming from. Castle Keeper's Guide is in the top 2 or 3 GM guides they've ever seen, can be used for many games. I would agree with that. I would agree that there's a lot of useful information in here that could be utilized for other games. I'll tell you who else just recently released a really good Game Master's Guide. It's Cobalt Press. Their Game Master's Guide for Tales of the Valiant is excellent. It really is. I sort of dinged the Player's Handbook because it was a little too much like D&D. Yeah, it was like, oh, I thought you guys were really going to go out on a limb here. But they didn't, and I understand why. I'm not busting their chops because, I'm a big fan of Cobalt Press. But that Game Master's Guide, that's good stuff. And the reality is the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide for D&D, it's a good book. Not as good as this, or at least the previous print run, because remember, I'm going to share a review of these new Reforged books too. And certainly it was not as good as the Tales of the Valiant. All right, so next we get into skill packages, talking about advantages. I think skills can be kind of tricky, especially if you're playing where a skill gives you like a +1 or a +2 towards your roll. Because the reality is, if you had a skill, wouldn't you have better than a 10% advantage? Wouldn't you think? Right? Well, I spend my lifetime as a carpenter, but I get +2 on my carpentering roll. It's like, okay. Reading Aid is with us. Says, I love the magic point system in this Keeper's Guide. They agree. The Tales of the Valiant Game Master's Guide is awesome. Love the NPC tables and dungeon creation tables. Tell you what, the Campaign Builder series is really nicely done by Cobalt Press. I still got to get you guys a peek at the Dungeons and Ruins, because I haven't done that yet. Have I? No, I haven't done that. You know what? I'll put it on the agenda for next week, because I don't believe we've taken a peek at that. All right, so Chapter 19, Character Death. As a game master, I have never had any issue with player characters dying in a game. And it's important, at least in my opinion, that when a player character dies, especially one that has been around in the campaign for a bit, first level characters buying the farm, yeah, okay, whatever. It's like not that big a deal. But when you start getting into characters that the players have grown accustomed to and attached to, when they buy the farm, it better be for a pretty good narrative purpose, or because of something really stupid that the players did or the player did, which then they can kind of laugh off usually. All right, so here we've got our game world here today, and we will move on into the index. Very nice. So if you've been hanging out because you wanted to get into the running in order to win the trio of the Castles and Crusades Reforged books, here is your opportunity. So remember, I told you I was going to ask you a question. And I did mention you needed to pay attention, because the question would revolve around the Castle Keeper's Guide that we were taking a look at. So the first person in chat who can give me the title to 3 of the 19 chapters we just took a peek at is going to get the trio of Reforged Castles and Crusades books in PDF. Yes. So there is some discussion of text density. Yeah, I got to be honest. When a lot of text is packed on a page, and I would say taking a look at this book as we took a peek through, Mark Hawkswell is with us. So they said, magic, combat, player death. Oh, so close. Oh, so close. All right, there, that was Mark's shot. Relator says, Mo, Larry, Curly. Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Okay, so Mark already took a shot, folks. Anybody else going to jump in and try to get into this? I guess not. All right, people are too slow, too slow. Mark's got it. There is treasure, magic, expanding characters. The previous guess had been magic, combat, player death. It's actually character death is the title. So Mark is the winner. So all you got to do, Mark, is shoot an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com from your Gmail that's associated with your YouTube account. And I will shoot you your link to your trio of books. Yay. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So once again, the Castles and Crusades Castle Keeper's Guide Reforged is from my friends over at Troll Lord Games. Clocks in at 368 pages. It is available for an MSRP of $49.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. And of course, I will have a review of the Castle Keeper's Guide in the not too distant future. So my reviews will actually come out in the same order that we took a look at the books. So we are going to see the Player's Handbook, then Monsters and Treasure, and then the Castle Keeper's Guide. Because, as I pointed out, if you're popping in late, the Castle Keeper's Guide isn't actually a necessary book. It's all optional. So the two necessary books, the essentials that you have to have, is the Player's Handbook and Monsters and Treasure. Very cool, very cool. So tomorrow we are going to dive on in. Well, it's going to be a jam-packed show because we're going to dive on in. We're going to take a look at Dark Tower for Dungeon Crawl Classics. This is part of Goodman Games' Original Adventures Reincarnated series. This is volume 7, based on the classic Judges Guild adventure from Janelle Jacques. We're going to dive in. We're going to take a peek at this. It is 3 volumes inside this slipcase set. And a big thank you to one of our viewers out there, happens to be watching right now, who was kind enough to donate the funds for me to pick this up. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. You know, funny enough, they actually donated the funds to pick up the collector's edition of the Castles and Crusades starter set. And by the time I went to go order it, it was gone. Because I think first they said they were only doing 125, and then they boosted it to 150, and now that was it. They're only going to do 150. So I did not score that. So instead, we're going to look to get some of Acts 2. Yes, that's right. Adventure Conquer King 2, because I know some of you folks are curious about it. Agile Monk also points out veterans get 50% off from Troll Lord Games. You know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody when I was at Polar Vortex, and they were talking about Paizo and what Paizo does for like schools and stuff. And I told him that you want to see a company that does like really cool stuff for game groups and schools. And it was funny because Troll Lord Games was the sponsor of the table we were at. So it was kind of, I held up the little, station sign, and I'm like, these guys right here. I said, Troll Lord Games, top notch. If you're running like a high school, game group or something, I said, they'll send you the core books, adventures. They'll get you all set up at absolutely no cost. I said, I think they do that for libraries too. So there you go. Agile Monk says, Troll Lords gives $400 for school programs for game materials. Pretty nice. Pretty sweet. Agile Monk also points out if you're a military member in an operational theater, they'll send you anything for free if you're in an active theater. That's pretty cool. That's pretty wild. That is pretty wild. You know, it's kind of funny, and we'll, wrap up the show in just a moment. There is this, strange misconception. Not by everybody, people our age, or my age, I guess I should say, because I know there's people of all ages hanging out, watching live, and taking part in chat. But people my age realize that very few companies make a lot of money with role-playing games. In this hobby in general, but especially in role-player games. And the vast majority of the people involved in this hobby, the publishers and so forth, just do it because they love the hobby. That's why they do it. Would it be nice if they made more money? Yeah, sure. But as Agile Monk is pointing out, Troll Lord Games probably gives out more free role-playing game material than anybody I'm aware of. Because, and once again, I understand Paizo's starting to get a little more involved with schools and libraries and things like that. But you don't see that kind of support for the community from a lot of companies out there. So keep that in mind. I always try to promote good people in the hobby. I try to do that as much as I possibly can. Raven has popped on in, said, they forego balance to bend a knee to the dice gods. If they roll 120 goblins, the PC should know how to avoid them. They charge in, that's on them. Yep, I can certainly understand that. All righty then. That's it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, bigger thank you, because not only are you keeping me company, but you're keeping each other company while I'm blabbing away, paging through stuff, sharing news pieces, and so forth. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I really do appreciate all of you taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Of course, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you have the time, appease the YouTube analytical gods out there, the algorithm gods, and please leave a quick comment. But regardless, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Will not only let you know when the dispatch streams live, it'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Volume 2 of The Gods of the Forgotten North from Pulp Hummock Press. Yes. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.